The talk that I prepared, which you may have seen on the digital newsletter that goes out, prepared by the pretty incredible volunteer team that coordinates and runs this Sangha spiritual community, the People of Color Volunteer Coordinating Committee. Big shout out to them. As noted in that e-newsletter, here's the title of my talk tonight. It's, in quotations, air quotes, Grumpy Metta, M-E-T-T-A. That's translated as loving kindness or friendliness or goodwill. And metta, or loving kindness meditation, is very, very popular, both in Buddhist circles as well as in a secular version. It does come from the Buddhist tradition. It's very, very popular. Little kids are doing loving kindness. People in hospitals, people in government facilities, stripped of Buddhism, it has been taken into secular settings. People get a lot of benefit of it. And like any practice, it's not one size fits all. Some people don't like it at all. And in that case, you don't have to do it. And it is fairly normal for some people who even do take it up as a practice to sometimes experience irritation or boredom or anger. And once again, those are not so-called negative emotions, as long as we're simply watching them and not acting them out in any harmful way. They're part of our spectrum of the abundance of human emotions that arise, change or don't change, stick around for a little bit, stick around for a long time, and then suddenly they're gone. The essence of mindfulness meditation and the benefit we can receive from it, a lot of it, we, of course, ideally gain more body awareness, somatic awareness, and that can help us in so many ways. Awareness of, like, when our mood changes. It could be a little, or it could be a lot. It could be feeling really sad one moment, and then, I don't know, our friend calls or something like that, and suddenly happiness arises, excitement arises. Notice and observe. Those are key moments, key moments. Therefore, the title, Grumpy Metta. And as I said when I was writing up the description for this talk, the thought that I should be meditating more, I should be meditating better, my mind meditation practice should be better, harder, longer, is a very common and painful self-judgment that I hear quite often as a meditation teacher. For our communities, combined with internalized oppression, feelings of, I should be doing more, I should be doing this differently, should. My meditation should be better is often how it arises. And these kind of thoughts and feelings their judgments can add to our exhaustion. They may not help us at all. So what I'd like to point to is how, in some cases, less can be more. Some people like to meditate a lot and get a lot out of it. If that is the case for you and it's part of your everyday routine, of course, go for it. My own background is in a lot of stationary meditation. It was through the Zen Buddhist school, Korean, and then in the Japanese traditions. We worked a lot and we did a lot of different practices, including chanting and bowing and making offerings and serving the Sangha. However, we sat like rocks. We were champion sitters. with a lot of concentration. So I'd like you to know this about me, and to know that if sitting is your thing, stationary meditation, it could be lying down, is your thing, of course, go for it. And we're now over a year, at least in the Bay Area, into the effects of the pandemic. You may be Zooming in from another country or a place that is still under lockdown, or even worse than what it was before. Or you may be in a place where things have relatively opened up. You may be an immunocompromised person who, whether things are opened up or not, your activities are still quite limited. This has been one heck of a very long year. For most of us, like you, may be feeling, I am exhausted a lot of the time. I'm pooped. I've been working hard, and also the stress has been great. Therefore, again, self-care, and sometimes less meditation. Looking at the quality, not the quantity of meditation, can sometimes produce more and better results for our emotional, physical, spiritual health. And very important, trying to just let go of some of the self-judgment, if that's an issue for you. And to learn that showing up exactly as we are. We might be anxious, grumpy, grief-stricken. I am all of those things in turn, is a fine place. It's really an okay place from which to show up and practice mindfulness. Be in community. Again, the rule is please don't harm yourself or others. And show up as we are. There's so much talk these days about fake, like performative white allieness, and performative this and performative that. Sometimes we do need to perform for our job, let's be realistic, or we need to put on a brave face, maybe for our kids and so forth. That can be realistic. And let's try to be as real as we can be, in full integrity, so that we together can make it okay, can make it normal, can make it okay for us as human beings to show up in the fullness of who we are. It's normal to cry when we're grieving, or to be angry. It's normal. It's normal to not have to be chirpy and bright and cheerful, fake cheerful, if we're exhausted, if we're worried. And there is a way of showing up in community and being real that I think is very, very important. And so these are to show up as we are, and to be able to generate goodwill and loving kindness and compassion. I said in the advanced description of this talk, iffy awareness. It's actually very high-level mindfulness to notice, wow, my thoughts are running in all directions like chickens just running around a yard. That's a high level of mindfulness. Wow, my thoughts are totally scattered right now. I'm extremely distracted. That's mindfulness. That is wonderful mindfulness. Because once we become aware, then there's something we can do about it. With mindful awareness, almost inevitably comes our own wisdom. I'm really feeling upset right now. I'm so upset. My stomach is churning. My shoulders are tight. Almost automatically, then when we're practicing mindfulness, wisdom arises and says, okay, I better chill out. Just let those shoulders drop. Maybe I need some water. Oh yeah, I'm kind of dehydrated. I've been so worried. I haven't really had anything to drink. I'm going to go get some tea. I'm going to go get some water. Maybe I'll do some stretches along the way. So my theme this evening is that less may be more. And in addition to that, however, there is also the invitation to look at our mindfulness. I won't even say practice, to look at our mindfulness on a daily basis and to try to go in the direction of more continuity, more little moments of mindfulness maybe, and a little bit more continuity throughout the day. So beginning to dissolve, if there is a kind of a boundary in the way we think about it between now I'm meditating, ding, oh, not meditating anymore, and then allowing things to be however they are without any intention of awareness. In other words, we can go unconscious again. It's not really the purpose of mindfulness meditation. The purpose of why we call it practice is because we're trying to make it more continuous, more continuous. And the way we do that without stressing ourselves out is to try to keep it a little light, keep it, maybe concentrate on just little moments of mindfulness. It doesn't have to be like this heavy, ponderous thing. And I say that once again, having myself done 3-month silent meditation retreats, which are traditional in Asian Buddhist traditions. There's usually a summer retreat for those who meditate, which are not all monastics, by the way. A lot of monastics don't actually meditate or that much. Those who do might do a 3-month retreat in the summer in Asia. That might be called the Rains Retreat, if it's rainy, and then a 3-month retreat in the winter. If you're in a cold area, which not everyone is, that might be called the Snows Retreat. And those are beautiful times when those who are meditating kind of cloister themselves and shut down everything pretty much and just go into very, very intensive silent meditation practice for days on end, 90 days, 3 months. So on this theme of less is more, I'd also like to begin to link that up. When the Black Lives Matter movement began to gain momentum, one of the slogans was, as I recall, this is not a moment. This is a movement. Not a moment, a movement. In other words, it's not going to be some flash in the pan thing. Hey, we had our moment. This is a movement. It's a movement that has goals. It's a movement that has benchmarks. It's a movement that consists of initiatives and campaigns that are organized, that involve outreach, networking, education, maybe teach-ins. These are movements that hopefully include celebrations of victories, and maybe celebrations just for the heck of it, in order to raise people's spirits and improve resilience and joy. So in thinking about not a moment, a movement, linking it up to political social justice movements, in other words, I really invite you as a practitioner of meditation, of mindfulness, to, if this may not be you, however, I think it is for a significant number of people, to let go, to loosen up on the ideal, IDEAL, the ideal we may have around meditation practice, and realize that the ideal is an idea. IDEA. It's an idea. And where the heck did that come from? Maybe from things we read or heard or dreamed up. And I invite you to relax into a faith that moments of mindfulness, again, with the invitation to make them more continuous in a very light, natural way, they will ripen. They will yield benefit. They will flower naturally. That those moments of mindfulness that you invite in everyday ways as you're washing dishes, as you're moving around, eating your food, talking to your kids, whatever it is, those moments of mindfulness, as we invite them to become more and more continuous, that they have the potential to get us there. They have the potential to flower naturally, natural development in moments of what we might call awakening or insight. So I'm going to share a personal story with you and an image, and I'll invite Julio or Evan to screen share a photo from January of 1988. This is getting in our time machine, folks. So January of 1988, and that is the group this is my ordination group photo. I was ordained as a kind of first level Buddhist nun in South Korea, where my lineage comes from. That's where my name comes from. Mushim is a Korean Buddhist name. It's Mushin in Japanese, same word from the Heart Sutra. And so there we see our group at the Sudoksa monastery, which is in the northern part of South Korea, up towards the DMZ. It's on a beautiful mountain called Toksung San, Toksung Mountain, and at the top of which you can see the China Sea. In back of us is a national treasure. It's very, very old wooden Buddha hall. So fire was always a danger. We would do these fire drills so that we could save our Buddha hall if fire broke out. And there we see in the courtyard in front of the Buddha hall, our ordination group. So this particular group consisted of both male and female young monastics. I was one of the older ones. I was, 34. I was 34. Some of them were teenagers. Some were from the mountain. Others were visiting from other temples or had come to this mountain specifically for the 4-day ordination ceremony. And you just get some feeling there, the typical gray robes, and for monastics, the brown overgarment. I'm actually wearing it here right now. One of those, either smaller or larger, which are called kasas or okesa in Japanese. And they are made of patchwork pieces of fabric that are sewn together and which pay homage to the robe of the Buddha, which was patched together from pieces of cloth, or when, because of the vow of poverty, if there's a hole develops in your robe, you're not supposed to just say, hey, I need a new robe. You get out your sewing kit and a piece of cloth and patch it up. Hey, some hearts have appeared. I never saw that before. Okay, so that will hopefully just give you a peek into another world, which is going on right now. It's going on right now in the mountains of South Korea. Wonderful practice. So if you could stop the screen share, please. So I'll share with you a story. This was during the Rains retreat in the summer of 1988 when I was in a nun's temple. monastery in South Korea, and we were very deep into a lockdown Zen meditation retreat. Wake up is at 3 a.m., whether you're in retreat or not, 365 days of the year. Wake up is at 3 a.m., lights out is 9 p.m., 7 days a week. And during the meditation season, those who are in the meditation hall, which is not everyone, because there are people cooking and cleaning and paying bills and keeping things running, those who are in the meditation hall are doing a lot of stationary or sitting meditation. I mean, like a lot. Because the usual services, chanting and so forth, are actually put on hold, and you get up and sit and meditate, and then there's breakfast, and then there's more sitting. There might be a little bit of walking during the day, maybe some bathroom breaks, but there's a heck of a lot of sitting. And so therefore, the concentration in the meditation hall becomes very, very deep. There can be a lot of settling and almost really yummy stillness, calming stillness, thoughts, feelings, everything just naturally settling down. It's not universal. However, that's one of the goals of the practice, is to develop what's called shamatha, stilling, that tranquil quality of meditative concentration called samadhi. And then that's thought to create the conditions for which insight can arise, spiritual awakening, that sudden aha moment where, like, wow, never had that perspective before. So we were sitting, and the sun was going down. So this was the summer, and that meant that the light was long during the day, and so it was probably a little later in the evening. I don't know, maybe 8 o'clock or something like that. And suddenly, in this silent meditation hall, it's all nuns, there were a group of junior nuns whom I knew, who were resident in this particular nuns temple. And they had made a little plan, and they all stood up, and they just quietly left the meditation hall, which one never does, by the way. And one of them passed by me and said, "Come on, Mushim, come." I thought, okay. So I got up, and we didn't get into trouble. Like, no one said, "What the heck are you doing? Come back here." They just kept sitting. So we went out, and we walked down the driveway, the front driveway of this very large nuns temple. We walked down the driveway, and they led me. They all gathered around. It just looked like a skinny little plant, actually. It just looked like a plant. And in Korean, I think it's called talmori. I think they said that means moonflower. So they said, they actually didn't say anything. Everyone gathered around and just looked at this plant. So I did too. And the sun got lower and lower and lower and lower. And then at a certain moment of when the darkness was coming in and the light began to lower, at a certain moment, we could see the whole top of the plant just rapidly unfurled, and we saw that bloom before our very eyes. And that's the moonflower. You can actually watch it. It's that fast. So I guess it's photosensitive in that way as the light goes down. And it was a magical, beautiful, beautiful moment. And then we turned, and we slowly walked together back up into the meditation hall. And I knew a little bit of Korean, and one of the nuns whispered in my ear and said, "This too is spiritual study. This too is our practice." So I invite you, try to shift your practice, not a moment, a movement. How is your spiritual practice and your meditation practice a liberation movement, your liberation movement? What is going to sustain this movement? Are you present and able to notice? Are you present and able to notice, to show up, whether grumpy, tired, curious, not curious, feeling open, feeling closed? Are you inviting yourself to show up and see the flower that may be blooming in that one moment before it gets too dark to see it? Just that one moment. So there is a Vipassana or mindfulness Buddhist teacher whom is my friend in Hawaii, on the big island of Hawaii. I'm a big fan of his, and his name is Jesse Maceo Vega Fry. And I think that Evan can put his name and website into the chat, and you'll see his website is Do Less for Peace. So that's one of his mottos. Do less for peace. So if you want to find out what Jesse teaches, go check it out. He's a wonderful teacher, very highly trained. And again, pointing to that maybe we're striving too hard. Maybe we're going for the ideal, which is an idea, rather than resting in the real and seeing what is here for us, the abundance of what is here for us. So this practice in the long run is not about forcing or willing or efforting strenuously or we burn out. It's about developing the ability to relax and yet remain alert. It's kind of a continuous watching, being alert, being alert, being alert. What is it that's arising now? Maybe it's something that we think, oh, well, this is something, yeah, that same old boredom. But really, what are the exact qualities of it? Our experience is actually new and unique in every single moment if we look closely. For those of us who work with young children or who are parents or guardians or grandparents, we look at that baby, not the same baby as the one yesterday. Human development is such. One day, the kid is just flailing around, hitting themselves in the face with their hands. And then the next day, something's popped in their brain and they're like this, and they're looking at their own hand, and you can see the spatial awareness has developed. That's how magical it is, and it's been true to a greater or lesser degree for each one of us. If we have the ability to walk, which not everyone has, there have been many, many developmental steps. There have been those magic moments of change and many, many moments of continuity of development. So we're developing, we are developing. And in ending, I'd like to read from a very ancient Buddhist text, which is a favorite of mine and many practitioners. There are many translations. It's called the Dhammapada, Dhammapada. This is one of the earlier texts of the writing down of what are said to be the teachings of the historical Buddha. This is translated by Gil Fronsdal, who is a scholar and a practitioner, meditation Buddhist teacher and a scholar and a translator. So I particularly like this version. And it said that the Buddha said this: just as from a heap of flowers. So say you've got these bunches of flowers and they're all just piled up on a table. Just as from a heap of flowers, many garlands can be made, So those of us who come from cultures where there are flower garlands, or maybe you've made them. My mom grew up in Hawaii, and my cousin is a Buddhist priest in Hawaii. So when I go there, beautiful leis, people give me leis. They're so beautiful. So just as from a heap of flowers, many garlands can be made. So you, with your mortal life, should do many skillful things. So it's the idea that each skillful act, each moment of mindfulness, we might think, oh, well, that was pretty small. It's like some little teeny flower. However, when we have many of them, we can stitch them together at the end of the day and think, whoa, I really had a pretty mindful day. And that creates the conditions for the insight to arise, the moment of awakening. And again, pointing to how less can sometimes be more, in the Dhammapada, it said, the Buddha said this: better than 100 years lived with an unsettled mind, devoid of virtue, is one day lived with insight and absorbed in meditation. Better than 100 years lived without seeing the arising and passing of things is one day lived, seeing their arising and passing. What do you notice right now that is arising? What do you notice right now that's changing and passing away, dissolving, transforming, ending? This is the great practice. Thank you so much. I think we have just a few minutes if you have insights or questions, and you can always reach me through my website. There's a contact us, or through contact us on the East Bay Meditation Center website if you have a question. You know what I'm going to say. Great question. However, you already know. I'm going to say, be aware that doubt is arising because it's normal. And in fact, it's necessary. Be aware that doubt is arising. In my opinion, we shouldn't believe something just because someone tells it to us. And that's different from being skeptical in the sense of being a difficult person and always saying, well, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe this. We're asked to be open. We're asked to be generous. And it's good to question authority. It's good to question what people are saying and wonder, well, I wonder if it might be true for you. I don't know if it's true for me. So we can notice that doubt is arising. And then, as has been said by many longtime meditation practitioners, and I would say it myself as well, look at the results. Look at the results. Practice, 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 and then evaluate. Was that helpful to me? What is the feedback I'm getting from my kids, from other people, from coworkers? Am I seeing the fruits of the practice? Not in some abnormal way. However, over time, is there development in the direction of more stability, more equanimity, more generosity, more love, more compassion, more wisdom? See what evidence comes in. And then if it's encouraging, then when that doubt arises, say, okay, doubt, I see you. And I know from my own experience, this can be helpful to me. It probably will be helpful to me. So I'm going to just set you aside and continue to practice.